I made a decision to open a business after 20 years of running businesses for other people.
Wow.
As I approached 40, and you're right, I love my job at the bank, I thought, if there's ever a time, it should probably be now. I'm not getting any younger. And I just had this moment where I said, gosh, I've always wanted to own a barbershop. I made the decision to take on the risk. I've made the decision to deal with happy customers and unhappy customers. I've made the decision to work at night, to work on the weekends. The work for the shop does not begin at 9 and end at 6. That's not the time. The time for running your own business is 24 hours a day, and it's 7 days a week.
One of the costs of doing business is to understand that people will never understand the cost. I'm going to keep today's intro short and sweet so we can get straight to the interview on today's show with my good friend Justin Hawkins. This conversation really just added so much value to my life, and I learned a lot about leadership and growing a team and even starting a business. And Justin is the region bank president for a huge bank here in town and has an incredible job where he has really stepped into a huge leadership role. And not only that, but a bit later in life, even I guess the middle of his life, in his 40s, he's decided to start a small business. And so I love stories of people that are balancing a job that they really love, but also starting a business kind of as their side hustle. And it did not take long for this business to outgrow Justin's side hustle. It's really amazing to see all that he does. And on top of that, I really love to be around successful people, but successful people that are also really humble and really nice. They're just a joy to be around and a joy to learn from. And so no matter where you are in life today, I really hope and pray that you're able to take something from this conversation. I'm still learning as I'm editing it and going back through these small clips. And I wanted to mention, we're not just on Apple Podcasts anymore, we're also on YouTube, and I want to be posting a lot more on YouTube as well as Instagram with video content. And so thank you guys so much for the support. Let's jump right into this conversation with my good friend Justin Hawkins. Welcome to the show.
Well, thanks for having me.
You've been a listener of the podcast too, right?
I have, and I'm always impressed, and I'm glad I got an invite.
There's not a gun to your head, and you're not lying, are you?
I promise, I'm not lying. If I'm lying, I'm dying. I'm not lying at all.
Okay. Well, I'm glad you've been listening, and I appreciate that. Tell me a little bit about your background and your career.
So, varied background in retail and banking. And actually, I'm still in banking. I've been in that for 15 years, and absolutely love it. And so, that's a little bit about my background. Hopefully that answers.
It does. I think one thing I've been really interested in lately is a lot of people think that entrepreneurship is either you're either fully, an entrepreneur with 24 hours a day, 7 days a week, or you're working a more traditional type job. But what I've been fascinated with lately is the people that really are juggling both and are also happy juggling both, and they're not. Not to speak for you, but I feel like you do love your job, right, and you also love what you're doing entrepreneurially. So what would you say, was there a moment that you realized, hey, maybe I can do both, or maybe there's something else out there for me? Like, when did that idea first come for you?
So there's always been part of me that wanted to own my own business, right? But I think it's like most folks that go to college or school, they get out and they may have a degree in education, and they may actually end up doing something completely different. And it's the same way, I think, in the business world, where you get out in your 20s and you go to work for a job or you go to work for a company, and you're trying to figure out what makes me happy. And so for me, there's always been this part that I wanted to own a business, but there's a fear there too, Jordan, that can, I think, get in people's way. And there's this voice, I think, sometimes that says, that's a lot of work. There's a lot of unknowns. I don't know that I want to navigate that. And this job I have, or this company I work for, provides the right level of security and safety, and I don't have to think about it. For me, I was approaching 40. I'm still 40, but I was approaching 40. And as you know, I've been on the struggle bus with that age. And I just had this moment where I said, gosh, I've always wanted to own a barbershop. I read this really cool article in GQ magazine, probably like 10 years ago, about barbershops of London. And they were these really neat places where guys went and they had this great experience. And I always had that in the back of my mind. It's that would be fun. It'd be cool. It'd be a good place to, create memories with your kids or family. And so, as I approached 40, and you're right, I love my job at the bank. I thought, if there's ever a time, it should probably be now. I'm not getting any younger. And so I thought about my background and, understanding small business, understanding marketing, understanding community, which is a big part, and understanding how to hire and train and develop people. And it just felt like, even though I'm not a barber, pulling those skill sets together and hiring the right people, it would be successful. And, here we are over a year being in business in Greer, which is my hometown. And we've been really embraced by the community, and it's been very successful. So for folks that have a full-time job and think, I've got to make a choice, you don't have to make a choice either or. Eventually you might do that. But for me, it was, how can I create a self-sustaining business, put a good infrastructure in place, get the right people around the table, and manage and lead that, and still have this other job that I absolutely love.
I love that. When someone says that, I've always wanted to, why do you think you've always filled that in with own a barbershop?
Well, I think it's varied for me. I've always liked fashion. I've always liked looking your best. I've always thought that's important. I was kind of raised that way. You don't have to have a lot of money to do that. And my mother was in the hair industry for years, and she had a very successful job and career in that for a number of years. And so I think creativity's been kind of part of my blood. It just felt like, again, the time was right. I also am pretty practical. And so when I looked at it and said, should I look at retail space? Retail space, there is a product, a tangible product and inventory you have to maintain and position and sell and market. Whereas with a barbershop, our product is service, and our product is a cut, and our product is a feeling. And so we don't feel like we cut hair. We feel like we create an experience, and we help guys and boys and some ladies look their best when they leave here and feel really good and confident. And so timing felt right. And here's the thing: if you have a dream, you get one life. You get one life. There's no do-over, right? And so for me, it was, now's the time to do it. I have a great job, a great career. I've really focused on saving. And so we took our time. We didn't rush into it. We spent a year renovating the business and building it so that we would be positioned better financially to take that risk.
Yeah. I think one thing that stands out, because I know you over the past couple of months even more than your business, and I'm learning about everything, and I think the thing that stands out to me the most about you is that you're a people person.
Right.
And you brought me coffee this morning. You didn't have to do that, Starbucks. But I think there is this idea of the hustle, the I've got to make it, the I've got to get my own, the Gary Vee talks about, in order to get bigger, I've got to tear everybody else down.
Yeah.
That's what most people's mentality is. And I think we just from my experience recently, just with if I've asked people, why do you refer me for work, or why do you tell people about me? And sometimes they're like, we like your work, but it's really that you're nice.
Yeah.
And so have we underestimated the power of being nice in business? And how much do you think being a people person matters?
I think in our business, and I see this both at the bank and I see that at the barbershop, that the power of being nice and being customer focused and thinking about the customer, not with how do I want to be treated, but how does this customer want to be treated? It's a differentiator. The other component to that, and you said this a minute ago, is being that way with your team and being that way with the people that are stewards of the business. I may own the barbershop, but when I look at the barbers that I have here, they are the face of the brand. And so the experience that they deliver to that person sitting in their chair tells our story. And it will either tell a story of, hey, come back, you're welcome, and it's comfortable, and you look great, and you feel great. or it will tell the story of that's not a place I want to come back to. So that power of nice and the power of community, how that comes through, it is for me, it's a linchpin of success. I'm a pretty nice person, or at least I try to be.
Self-proclaimed nice person.
Right, self-proclaimed. And then the other thing is, you mentioned there's a lot of competition, right? I met with a nonprofit recently, and one of the things that that this person said is we should have a kingdom mentality or a mentality of abundance. There's enough for everybody.
Yes.
And I feel that way here. So I have great relationships with other owners of barbershops. Do we compete? Well, yeah, we compete. But guess what? We cut hair. There's a limited amount of spaces to cut hair.
It's the rising tide.
There's a huge population. So I'm going to lift other shops up. And it's okay if other shops lift us up or they don't. At the end of the day, we have a differentiated experience. And I could leave our playbook on the table and any barbershop could pick it up. It's in the execution is what drives the customer experience, how we execute, what our vision is. And so we have an abundant kingdom type mentality where we want everybody to be successful in this industry.
So when it comes to like community, and you talked a little bit about this, how did you take something that was just an idea in your mind and grow to a level of confidence that you're like, I'm going to now put this in front of the community and I'm going to be confident enough to show them my dream so that they can be a part of it? Like there's from the idea where you're like, oh, is this just an idea to it actually happening? Like there has to be some level of like yelling and shouting out before everything's all in place, right?
Well, there's always a healthy level of shouting it out, right? But I will say it's about the people that you surround yourself with. When I told my family, and my wife and I talked about this, we told our families, hey, we're going to open a barbershop. They were very supportive, but you can imagine that the look on their face was like, okay, a barbershop. Like, what does this mean? And then the question is, are you going to quit your job? Which is not at all what we wanted to do. So for us, we've got to get the right people, the right support, and kind of test the waters. Every step we took was designed to either affirm our vision and help us to realize it's a good idea, or to help us to determine, do we need to shift it? Even down to the logo, to the name. We sent this out to a bunch of friends. We sent it out to a bunch in the community. Hey, what's your feedback on the, on the name? What's your feedback on the logo? And what we heard from people is, oh my gosh, I can't wait till you're open. The other thing was we started an Instagram page a year before we opened the business. That was a really good way for us to gauge community support and engagement. When people started liking and following the Instagram and they started direct messaging, when are you open? I need a cut. Can't wait for you to open. Love the brand. We hadn't even opened the doors. We wanted to create a vision and get that out in the community. That's a baby step. We did that for a year. And then when we opened, there was a lot of hype. There was a lot of energy around people trying it out. So we opened our doors. Wendy Smith, who's one of our master barbers here, the first barber for the shop, her first day, I know she was nervous. I was nervous. I'm like, it's gonna be successful or it'll flop. And her first day, I think she did like 12 cuts the first day. So the anticipation was there, and we built and built and built. We marketed and marketed and marketed. And we did it one barber at a time. So, the other component I would say is when you're thinking about opening a business, you might have a huge vision, but there has to be a sense of reality to say, I can't get to the huge vision tomorrow unless I make the proper steps that better support the business. If we had hired 3 barbers from day one, I bet you we would have lost some of them because there wouldn't have been enough business from day one. But we built on one till we got to 70% booking. We added a second. We got to 70% booking. We added a third. And so now we're getting to that 85% booking for all of our barbers, and we're about at capacity, which is a really good place to be.
I love that. From the standpoint of your upbringing, your childhood to now, what do you think there were things that were instilled in you at a younger age that made you more of a people person, more entrepreneurial, more?
Absolutely. So I come from a working class family. My mom and dad were and are great parents. My father passed away about 14 years ago. My mom is still alive, and she is 70, and she is owning life right now. She's a lot of fun.
Hopefully listening to this podcast.
Hopefully listening to this podcast. She's going to call and ask me how to work her iPhone. I'm sure that's probably what's going to happen. But I'll say this. We grew up, my father was in retail. We moved around with his organization, and so we felt like we moved to schools all the time. But it also forced us to be really close, my mom, my dad, my brother, and myself, because we were a nucleus family. I also saw my father work extraordinarily hard, and we lived paycheck to paycheck. So I understood the value of risk, I understood the value of hard work, and I understood that no one in life is going to give you a trophy. You got to go work for it. You're either going to succeed or fail, and it's going to be primarily because of you. And the other component was in high school, my father worked for a large company, and after receiving a considerable promotion was part of a downsizing the next month. And so 20 years investing in a career he lost overnight. And I saw how that impacted my dad. I saw how it impacted our entire family. And I took away from that a couple things, that when life hits you really hard, you have a choice. You do what you need to do to make your family succeed and to help your family, and you instill those values. And so I saw that with my parents. My dad working 2 jobs, my mom working 2 jobs. At 14, I went and got a job. My brother worked. That experience taught me that if I want something in life, I need to own it. And when I own it, I will be happier and I will be more satisfied because no one handed it to me.
Wow.
Those moments shaped, honestly, Jordan, who I am in a business corporate world, and how I think about people, and how I appreciate people. And it makes me think about how I run our business here, that it is fiscally responsible, and it is focused on the customer.
And you probably, because you love this, because you love both of your jobs, you probably don't even realize how much you are working, and that you probably are working more than you know. Yeah,
I'm sure that's it. You know, I get all the time, how do you balance everything? I don't really think about it. We have, my wife and I have 3 kids, and so she balances a lot with that and the business, because she does a lot with our business as well. And
got to get those brownie points in.
Right, I do what I can.
Recording.
I do what I can. But I will say, having a large job in banking, and then having this business, and then I'm on nonprofit boards, which I recently chaired. It's a lot.
Not that we're downplaying someone that is a clerk at a bank, but you're not just sitting there collecting money. You're a team leader, a team player. You have a lot with that job. You're not just
it's pretty busy, and I travel a good bit, and I have a lot of responsibility, and that is my primary responsibility. And I love my job. I love leading a team, and I love helping customers succeed. That plays out here as well. So one of my big lessons. And I think about inspirational quotes, or just how do you lead yourself. One of the big things that I mentioned this to you earlier is something I learned through Maya Angelou, who is was a big Oprah fan, and Oprah's a big fan of hers, and that is people tell you who they are, believe them. That is probably one of the biggest principles in business I think I've ever learned. Some of the mistakes I made early is wanting something for someone more than they want it for themselves.
Oh my gosh, dude.
And you know what I'm saying?
So good.
And sometimes as a leader and as a business owner, you can pour into someone without looking up to realize that they don't want this. And
that is so
and
wise.
you sometimes paint others in your own self-image. Like, well, if I want this, you should want this. And what I've learned and what's helped me is hiring people for the skills and talents that they can bring, and meeting them where they are, and slowing down enough and knowing who they are, right? Because people will show you. If people show up late to an interview, they're telling you, I'm going to be late to life, right? So you've got to make that decision. Am I okay with that?
Yeah.
Am I okay with that? Because when you hire them and you get down the road and they're late every day, you can't get mad at anybody but yourself, because they showed you who they are. if in an interview they're telling you everything that's happened to them in life that's negative, I have a sympathetic heart, but they're probably going to carry that through life. They're going to carry it through your customer interactions. They're going to carry it when they're out of work or whatever that might be. So, learning that people show you who they are, believe them, that has been one of the biggest, most impactful learnings I've ever had. And that, I think, plays along with, wanting something for somebody more than they want it for themselves.
So good, because I'm in the middle of reading EntreLeadership by Dave Ramsey, an incredible book, but this one portion, the biggest takeaway I've gotten from the book is this one little section that says, do they light up?
Right.
And I mean, it hit me like in the face, like, oh my gosh, here is 2 or 3 people that I can think of right now. I'm lighting up for them about what I'm doing. They're not lighting up.
Right.
And this is where the tension has come to is, I'm excited for them, they're not excited. And he talks a lot about that if money is their only motivator, you'll never be able to pay them enough.
Right.
If excitement's their only motivator, it won't be enough. There has to be some level of passion on their end that pushes them. And so that kind of leads me into my next question, which is, most people, I feel like they're not in your position, which is a great position, which is you've already had the experience of managing people, leading people. What about somebody who's kind of been this one-man shop forever, and maybe they're not even looking for a full-time employee, but they're looking to include more people in what they're doing, whether that be a part-time or a contract capacity. How does somebody that's been doing everything themselves transition to realizing, like, this is bigger than me, I can't do all this by myself? Obviously, you've been able to naturally do that in this second stage of business with the barbershop, but I think it's probably one of the most challenging things to take your hands off of everything and begin to place other people into there.
So 2 things. One, I think if you're anything like me, you're probably a little bit of a control freak. And I know that about myself. Step 1 is knowing I have a problem and admitting I have a problem.
My name is Jordan and I'm a control freak.
Part is casting your vision, right? So I would say casting your vision to people and bringing other people into what it is you want to achieve. So if you are a one-man show and you've never led people before, make sure you understand your point of view and you can articulate your point of view in a way that resonates with people so they understand it. The second thing I would say is if you've never led people before and you're going to expand where you are leading people, find a mentor. Surround yourself with other business owners who have done it.
I love all that. For me, I feel like my biggest weakness when it comes to what I'm trying to grow as a leader has been communication. And like to this point, I guess when you're solopreneur or alone, you just communicate within your own brain and yourself. So when you begin to include other people in what you're doing, you kind of forget to include them on some of those thoughts that you're having. And so one kind of quote that I've thought of recently is like, I can't expect from someone what I didn't clearly communicate to them. Meaning, the shoot's over, this is over, now I'm mad at them because they didn't do this, but I never communicated in the first place. So how do you have any tips for like communicating or being able to, you talked about your booklet, but earlier, but what are some ways that you think people can begin to communicate with their team? And is there a level of, hey, I'm communicating this with my team, and then this over here is staying in my mind until I figure it out as the leader. Now I'm ready to bring this to them.
Yeah. So it's a good point. I think you have to assess yourself and say, is what I expect reasonable, and is what I expect, do they know exactly what I think, right? So to your point, if you're in a moment where you want your team to provide a better customer experience, or in your case, get a different shot or a different angle or whatever that might be, I always ask myself, am I being very clear with my expectation? And then secondly, have I seen them demonstrate that they can do it? If they can't, if they've never demonstrated it, then that tells me if I tell them, they still don't know, I need to show them. So there comes a moment where you have to, I think as a leader, lead with your hands, right? So we lead with our heart, we lead with our hands, we lead with our heads. That's how most leaders kind of frame it up. That's how I frame it up. Leading with your head is, I'm going to tell you what I need you to do. Leading with your hands is saying, I'm going to show you. So let me slow down to speed up, right? I need to slow down just a moment, and show you this, and eventually I won't have to show you again, so we can all run a little faster. But it's important to determine, or at least it is for me, I need to slow down right now, and I need to show you or let you hear what does it sound like, what does it look like, what should it feel like. And that's an in the moment, on the spot coaching that you need to provide. And people want that. People want to know and calibrate their success. Am I successful? And so those bits of feedback, while it might to you feel like it's constructive, to them, they're going, it's a coach running a different play. They're telling me to do this different to get better.
Yeah.
And so that's important.
I love that. How do you feel about, positive affirmation? And there's a constructive criticism, but how do you feel that praising things and being positive in the workplace really affects your team, and that you're not just criticizing or you're not just trying to correct the things that need to be changed, but you're celebrating the things that are positive?
Yeah. So it's got to be a balance. We talked off camera about strengths and knowing what your strengths are. My number 2 strength is belief. And that means, I believe that we're all connected to a higher purpose. I think we're all in this spot. I think, Jordan, we're having this conversation for a reason, right? I don't know what that will be, right? Other than it's a lot of fun and we hope we get good viewership. But I think we're all connected. The other component for me for belief is I associate false praise with dishonesty. Meaning, I can't walk around and tell everybody it's milk and motherhood, everything's great. So it's got to be a balance. So to your point, there's constructive criticism, which should address behavior, technique, or process, which is absent of the person.
Right.
And then in that constructive criticism, you've got to make sure that you build the person up where they have your confidence and strength.
Because if I'm too positive as a leader, then they might rest off and say, I don't have to be on my toes, I don't have to be excellent. Yeah. But if I'm too critical, then I feel like I'm being, a dictator, right?
You're exactly right. And, the other risk you run when you're just being, everything is great and I'm giving everybody good feedback is when you do give the criticism, it because it's less often, people aren't conditioned to it, and they may have a visceral reaction to it. It may impact how they serve the customer because they feel like, oh my gosh, they just blow out my candle, right? Mm-hmm. Which is not what you want to do as a leader. You want to leave that person whole and realizing I need to correct this, or I need to tweak this, or I need to shift this, and I get a better customer experience. And then for the barber in this situation, what's in it for them? It's repeat business. It's the reputation of the cut and of the experience.
I love that. When it comes to team building and growing your team, obviously your team can expand beyond the people that work for you to people that talk well of you and people that refer you, your customer base, and you're really growing that audience. How do you think people begin to look at their community as an extension of their team, as opposed to just we have our team members and then it's like our customers, but you've really gone narrow focused and said, I'm going to focus in on our community, right, and be a part of that. How do people that are in business, or maybe they're an artist or whatever, how do they begin to really see their community as an asset to really not just use but invest in?
So it's a really good question, and I'll speak from the barbershop lens for this question. People narrowly think about their community, I think, from the standpoint of when they say the word community, they think I need to volunteer at all these different nonprofits, or I need to have a focus day where I'm giving back monetarily, whatever that might be. And that is part of it. We have been proud to sponsor a few nonprofit events, get involved, have support there, and that's one way that we give back to the community. The way I see it is when you have a healthy business, your team members or your employees prosper. When those employees prosper, they provide a better life for themselves and their families. They also invest in the communities through purchasing, through connections, through whatever that might look like. The other component is we are a community-faced barbershop or community-focused barbershop, whereas we invite the community in to have an experience.
Yeah.
And our goal, Jordan, is not just to give a good haircut. Our job is to give an experience to guys that want 30 to 45 minutes of time focused on them, where they can come in and we're going to give them a great consult. We're going to help them look their best and feel their best and walk out of our doors with some swagger. And when guys come into a shop and they walk back out into the community feeling better about themselves, feeling a little bit of pride in themselves, the ripple effect that they have with everybody that they touch in the community is positive. And then you know what they do? They tell people about your business. They tell their guys about your business. Yeah. One of the great things is people leave here and they either do an Insta story, right? Or they post to Instagram or Facebook. They take a picture of their cut a lot of times. We had a customer the other day took a picture of their koozie and said, "My barbershop gives me a koozie." That experience happened several days ago, but we're still on their mind, right, and they're still talking about us to the community. So we want to give back with our monetarily, right? And we do that through the nonprofits that we support. We want to do that by getting out in the community and volunteering at events. But we want to make a difference in the community by the services that we provide, and we want to provide them with such precision and such engagement that customers want to come back. That's why I think there's room from the barbering industry from different shops, because barbershops pop up quite frequently, or they have here lately. I don't really feel that I'm competing against anybody, because I feel like we have an experience that we provide and we're really good at it. And when we have a little vacillation, or maybe it didn't come to fruition and we get that feedback, we sit down, and the barber and myself or whoever, we talk about it. And it's not about the barber, it's about how do we prevent that experience from ever happening in a negative way again, or how can we tweak it to make it even better?
Yeah. And I remember what I was going to say earlier. You brought it back out of me. But I'm a firm believer in this, like, to the core. It's that if you constantly improve and outdo yourself, you'll never have to compete.
That's
with
exactly
other people.
right.
And I mean, I've discovered that. Some people in my life have said, "You've improved here. I've seen you improve here. I've seen this," or you never seem to stop trying to improve. And I'm like, true, but I don't think about competition.
Yeah.
I know they're there. I know who they are. I'm not naive in that I didn't look into the market and see what's going on and see what people are charging. But I think if your focus is always on you and your team improving and being better, you won't have to compete.
You are exactly right. And look, I'm a big fan of your business, right? Like, I follow all of Jordan Visuals and Knotted Arrow, and I'm always excited to say I know this guy who does these cinematic videos and tells a story through video. And so you're right. It is. I think you make a really good point too. It is healthy to always look at your competition. It's not healthy to hold yourself to their standard. And
Better preach.
Right.
I've been reading this book called This Is Marketing by Seth Godin. Great book. He talks about the smallest viable audience.
Right.
And it's really been fascinating to me, because since I've started out, I've always been more. We need more. We need everyone. So to say we're going to be the biggest barbershop in the world and everyone's going to know us and everyone's going to come be our client, that's almost an impossible goal. But I think you've already gotten this, and you have this business sense that I didn't have, which is you're not looking for everyone.
Right.
You're looking for the person that wants what you offer. And that's why competition doesn't matter as much. And so what has that been like for you to maybe, you're clearly busy, but what does it look like as a business owner to sit back and say, like, I'm not looking for everyone, I'm looking for this type of person that enjoys this?
I think you make a really good point, especially for like a budding entrepreneur. I mean, I'm 40, so it's taken me a while to get here, right? Like, and I'm still arriving. But what I would say to that is we have a 800 square foot barbershop. I mean, Jordan, if I reach like this, I'm probably going to touch the other wall. I'm kidding. But it's a small barbershop, right?
Yeah.
It's capacity. There's only a certain amount that we can provide. So to your point, we're more about, we want to market and have a really good brand that's not going to touch everybody. And we want to tell a story that resonates with a customer that says, that's what I'm looking for. So part of our marketing strategy, as you all know, because you've helped us out on this, is telling our story visually through the power of a video. Not because, Instagram will tell you one moment, one angle in time, right?
Right.
And we want to market that, and we want to build that brand. The video that we've done, a couple of the videos we've done, have told who we are and what our purpose is. So to your point, that is going to resonate with certain people. We're not a barbershop where you come in and we're a man cave. That's not what we wanted, and that's okay, right?
Because some people aren't going to feel
right, and some people love that.
Like me.
That's great, right? We wanted a place where you could come in and you could have an experience. You could bring your son or your grandson and let them feel what it feels like to sit in a barber's chair, to get a hot towel treatment, to have that moment of one day growing up and saying, I remember when Dad used to take me to the barbershop. I remember Saturday mornings getting up with Dad. Or I remember when I was a little kid always going to the refrigerator at the Brass Beard and getting a Coke out, right? And having a drink and hanging out with Dad or Mom or whoever that might be. We wanted that. So to your point, we're okay that that's not for everybody. That's what we wanted. That's our vision. And we know that that vision will resonate with certain people. And when they come in and they experience that, we hope they want to come back. Sometimes maybe they don't, and that's okay. We want to learn from it and get better. But we're not a fit for everybody.
So I want to take a minute and talk about you.
Yeah.
Not just the business. What are some parts of your daily routine as an entrepreneur and a leader and a family man like that you just couldn't live without?
Oh gosh.
Even your morning routine, like anything that I'd just love to hear.
So I am a talker. Is this a shocking development to anybody? Talk a lot. I don't really talk in the mornings. I don't really like to talk in the mornings. I like to get up. I shower and everything. I don't eat breakfast until after everything's done. That is kind of my time to kind of get up and get myself moving. That's also the time that I am prayerful in the mornings. It's just what I do. It's like how I kick off the day. And I'm not a let me be this and thou kind of prayer guy. I'm like, let's talk about what's happening today, right? Like, I'm going to need some favor. I'm going to need some help. And I'm not I'm a pretty balanced person, but that's important to me. It's also important to have that time in the morning to really think about business. And so I think about my work at my primary job, my job, and who am I going to be interacting with? What are some of the conversations I anticipate having? And I think through how that could go. Yeah. Every day.
Do you read much?
I read a lot. Not as much lately as I have in the past, but I typically read 3 or 4 books at a time, and I'm all over the spectrum. I'll read books that are about getting better or thinking about life a little differently, and I read a lot of fiction. Because that's kind of my jam.
Do you have a book you'd recommend to like creatives, entrepreneurs?
So I would say probably my favorite book I've read over the past 4 or 5 years, and I mentioned this to you off camera, is Strength Finders. I think that's good for anybody because it really helps you assess what are your strengths, what do they mean, and then how do your strengths show up as a fatal flaw. So that's one that's probably pretty important. The Energy Bus is another one, which really talks about bringing people into your life that's going to help provide energy and help move you and the cause forward.
Is there a level that sometimes that we kind of overly obsess about learning or improvement or work-life balance? I wanted to hear your thought on that.
Well, so I love when people say, I just read the best book ever. It's my 12th this year. Congratulations. You've got a lot of time on your hands. Rock on. You be you, right? Practicality, that's not the case. I'm a big, let me get this nugget and process this nugget. That's important to me. Having a, reading, a devotional or reading a quick article on business is, I can take sometimes more from that and think about the practical application than I can if I read a whole book, right?
Right. There's only so much you can implement in any given week or month, right?
And that goes back to the work-life balance. If I sat around and thought about business all the time, no one would like me. Like, no one would. I wouldn't like myself. I do have a thread of business running through my mind, and when I'm watching a movie, something might pop out that's a really cool saying, or that has an application to business, or that's a fun way to look at it. So there's that. But I try to balance, a business read with something that has zero to do with business, which takes me to work-life balance. I work a lot because I love it, but I also love my kids. Yeah. And I have a lot of fun with my kids. And so having time to go to the movies with them, having time to around the supper table, have a conversation about our day and how things are going, that's important. Yeah. And sometimes you can be overscheduled, and you got to take time to not be.
How do you, this is my weakness, Lord help me. How does someone learn to say no?
Oh, okay. So I'm not kidding. So, I think I've mentioned only 753 times that I turned 40 this year. I
really would have never guessed that, honestly.
Well, thank you. I really appreciate that.
Not just saying that.
But this has been the year that not 2019, but 2018 was the power of no for me. And it's no.
That's your book.
Right. That's right. Maybe that's
you write that book.
I'll see what I can do. I'll write that book. You write the intro. I'll write the intro for your book. But I've heard this a while, and I think it just took me a while. It's no with zero context. And what I mean by that is when people want something from you, and I'm a giver. I think a lot of people are. Sometimes we say, no, I've got X. And the first thing they'll say is, oh, well, what if we move that to here? I have had to be really authentic to say, no, I only have this life. That's not something I want to do. That's not something that I'm passionate about, and it's not something I'm going to be really good at. Or you're not going to get the best of me now. And I say, unfortunately, it's no. That's all I'll say. I don't give any other context. And the reason I don't is because when you say no, there's no comeback. There's no comeback. And sometimes I'll get, well, why not? I don't think I can give the best of myself right now. So the answer is no. We can talk about it in a month or in a couple weeks, but for this weekend, it's a no. And at first, I'm Southern, right? So you're raised to just help everybody out. But I feel like sometimes when you say yes,
saying no is rude.
Yeah, saying no is rude. But sometimes when you say yes, but you don't show up with a giving spirit, or are you resentful, you're not going to be the person they asked. You show up as somebody different. And I don't ever want to show up that way. I'd rather show up as truthful and go, hey, I can't do that.
That's so good.
The first few times you feel a little awkward. And I found myself going, no, not right now. And then I saw the look on their face, and I'm like, oh, I should, give them an excuse. I don't want to do that. So, to your point, it is freeing to say no. It doesn't mean I don't care about you. It doesn't mean I don't love you. It doesn't mean I don't want to support you. It's just no. And that's okay.
Someone said, or there's a quote that says, every time I say yes to something, I'm saying no to something else. So if every time you say yes to this, you're saying no to your kids or to whatever,
Well, and you got to figure out, and I think about this in business too, what comes on our plate, something has to go off our plate, because there's a capacity. There's 24 hours in a day. There's never more than 24 hours in a day. There's never more. There's never more. Yeah. So if you keep filling it with things that aren't going to get the best of you, and you need that time to just regenerate or pour into people that will be standing next to your deathbed one day. Those are the people that will be there. No one else will. They will be there.
Not the people that wanted you to be busy for their agenda.
Or to further them. And that's okay. I mean, I have a lot of people that'll say, hey, will you give me advice on this? Sure. And then sometimes I can't today. I can't this week. I'm busy. No. It's okay to move that down the path to a time where I'm not as busy, because I will have time to be thoughtful and genuine and supportive. And you're going to get the best of me then. You're not going to get the best of me today.
And I think you probably have realized this, but I can kind of know within like a couple of emails or texts or calls if a new person in my life or relationship or something like that is either going to be life-giving or if it's going to be soul-sucking, And if it's life-giving, I'm way more likely. If someone's asking me for advice and I know that I can learn just as much from them, or I know that it's going to be life-giving, I'm way more likely to give more of myself to that than to the opposite.
It's a mutual value exchange, right? And sometimes as leaders, you need to step in and say, I need to be more of a giver. But, I've evaluated relationships in my life and said, that doesn't give me value. A friend of mine said years ago, and this is another thing that's resonated with me, people make time for things that are important to them.
Right.
And I have to look at folks and go, if something's important to me, and I will make time for you, but you're not making time for me, we don't have a mutual value exchange.
Or you only come to me when you need X.
So, as a leader, this happens in business, this happens personally. I have to be able to quickly determine, okay, I'm putting more into this than I'm getting out, and it should be mutually valuable. Sometimes I'm going to pour more in, sometimes I'm going to get more out. I have to say no to those kinds of relationships or business dealings and go, that's not mutually beneficial. And that's okay. We don't have to be upset about it. I don't have to get my feelings hurt. It's just that didn't work. And that takes maturity to say, this doesn't work and I'm okay with it.
Yeah. So what do you do to completely, we talked about work-life balance, but what do you do to just completely clear your head and clear your mind and say, I'm out. When I'm back, I'll be refreshed and ready. Is there, because we're all very connected all the time.
We are, we talked about this earlier, we are a world that's highly connected and highly lonely at the same time. When you are highly connected and you're constantly looking at everybody's fun, which is a moment in time that probably took 25 pictures to get that exact moment. For me, so I dropped all social media about 2 years ago for a year, and I just didn't do it. I got back on because of the nonprofits I was on. I really wanted to promote it. Our business, I wanted to promote it. I don't feel like I need to walk away from that. I do take time and go for a hike, and I typically do that by myself. My wife would say it's not the smartest move sometimes, the times of year that I pick when I get up on a mountain and it's snowing and I'm hiking in the snow by myself. I at least take something so they can find the body. I'm kidding. But that's really important. For me, it does two things. One, I am completely disconnected and I am reliant on myself to walk through whatever it is I'm walking through. It's also a reminder that I am a very, 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 very small part of this world. And sometimes when people come at you all the time and they ask for advice and they ask for your thoughts and you can tell yourself the story that you are important. I am so important to everybody. And maybe you are at times, but I don't know that I need to believe that. Because I think if I constantly believe that I'm important, my personality will change and I will think I'm someone I'm not. So for me, hiking and being reliant on yourself and being reminded that I am part of a bigger plan and that that's really, really important for me.
That's something that I wanted to kind of get into is I feel like we are all on a journey, and as an entrepreneur, I definitely sometimes feel like that you kind of pull out the compass and you're like, okay, I'm going to go this way. I don't know what's there. I don't know what I'll be doing when I get there. Full-time, part-time, good, bad, ugly, whatever. Where is your moral compass and also your just obviously you're a spiritual person. So what is that? How does that give you the strength for the days that are obviously not the best? And being an entrepreneur, I think, is a lonely thing, and that sometimes people think that entrepreneurs have this, secret juice they drink at night, or they were like chosen, or they have some sort of like, I think it is talent and it is all these things, but I think at the end of the day, sometimes it's just really hard work, and that takes time, which then sometimes leaves us in more of a lonely, this is us space. And so how does God work into that?
So first is, I think, having the realization that I am not perfect and I'm nowhere near it. The second is understanding that I am part of someone else's purpose. For me, that's God, and that's that relationship that I have. I've from a young kid, have always been very communicative with God for me, and I have conversations like I have with you. It's really more of just a conversation. I'm never very thoughtful around, let me sit down, let me be very prayerful in this one moment, in this one time, in this one space. For me, it is an ongoing conversation.
I love that.
I mean, in the car, in the shower, helping me through things that I struggle with. And so that's important. The other thing I would say in terms of the way people sit back and they go, gosh, they're a business owner, they must have it all together, or there's a secret sauce. There is no secret sauce. Life is about decisions, good decisions and bad decisions. And I think for me, I'm open to learn from both. And I really want to learn from the bad decisions more than the good decisions. And I'm full of bad decisions. I mean, every day I wonder, did I make the right decision?
Yeah.
I have to have confidence that I feel like I did. And if I didn't, what did I learn from it? And what am I going to change as a result of it, right? So I made a decision to open a business after 20 years of running businesses for other people.
Wow.
And I made the decision to take on the risk. I've made the decision to deal with happy customers and unhappy customers. I've made the decision to work at night when things go wrong with the website, to work on the weekends, to build out a marketing plan for a month, to be very thoughtful about how we invest. It's a lot of work. And so when people drive by the shop, and it's a really good looking shop, they come in and they have a great experience. The work for the shop does not begin at 9 and end at 6 or 5:30 or whatever the time it is that we actually get out of here with customers. That's not the time. The time for running your own business is 24 hours a day, and it's 7 days a week. Not a vacation goes by that I don't go on vacation and get a phone call because there's a plumbing issue, or there's something wrong with the building. But it happens all the time. And so I think, again, people can tell themselves a story and go, gosh, they're a business owner, there must be something different. We work really hard. We learn how to run a business. We take risk. We fail sometimes. We succeed sometimes. But it's in the decision. It's in the decision to decide to run a business. And that decision is not a one-time decision.
Yeah.
You have to decide, as you know, every day I'm going to run a business. Every day. And the days that you don't want to run a business, you have to decide to run a business. I mean, what about you? I mean, you're running a business that takes you all across the state and multiple states. How do you keep that energy going? And
who's the interviewer?
Well, I know, but I'm just I learn from everybody. But really, how do you do that? How do you remind yourself or keep that energy going?
I think for me, people see the good, but they don't see the process from, like, when I'm editing a video, I'm like, this is terrible, this sucks, this isn't good, this isn't going well. Oh, this is good. Like, sometimes that's what business feels like to me of, this is never going to work out, this isn't going to work, we don't have customers, what's going on? Oh, it's good. And like, most people only see the it's good moment, And so people don't see the area that takes you from here to there. So for me, I really struggle with, I really excel in the really high moments when everything's good, when I'm traveling or when I'm working with a great client. When I get back home by myself, sit in front of my computer and it's still quiet, that's what I would call the lower moments. It's not low in that it's negative, it's low in that it's just low frequency, nothing's moving. That's when I feel like I have my moments with God of like, okay, God, Thank you for reminding me that I'm not that great. I'm not, it's those highs and lows of life and business that I think have taught me that there's going to be some crazy, awesome mountaintop moments where you literally can't believe that you're going to do this. But then there's the moments where it's like, this is what nobody sees. This is what's so hard. This is, my eyes are going cross-eyed from staring at this footage, and I think one thing that's really freed me this year has been the idea that I get frustrated if like a certain client, before I understood the idea of smallest viable audience, when I thought everybody needed to book me, I would get really frustrated when someone didn't want to pay my rates or whatever. And I realized like, they don't understand what I do. They don't understand everything that goes into this. And like, it just hit me. It's like, that's one of the costs of doing business is to understand that people will never understand the cost.
Right. That's really well said.
That's
really well said.
Like, I'm free now because most people, unless they're a business owner, are not going to understand the cost of what I'm doing, and that's one of the costs and sacrifices of doing business.
Yeah. Listen, I think you said it well, and what's amazing, Jordan, is it doesn't matter what business you're in. We all have those same moments of doubt and of being a little overwhelmed. What I love about what you said, and I think is something that I try to do well, and I'm still on a journey, is leading with humility. I think if you have a humble disposition, and I call it, I've heard this phrase before, so I didn't coin it, but that humble swagger, which means I'm really confident about what I do, and I feel really good about it, but I know I'm not everything, right? And I know that I'm still growing. Having that humility, and as a leader, having that with your team, and realizing, I'm not a barber, so I come in and the barbers give me a hard time all the time. Because, I decided I wanted to cut my son's hair, right? And I think I did an okay job, but I'm not a barber. So, Miranda and Wendy and Felicia are telling me everything that I did wrong, on the weekend that I couldn't even get into my own shop.
Yeah.
Like I couldn't even book an appointment at my own shop because we were so busy. And my son needed a haircut. And so that's the moment of humility. And I think the barbers appreciate the fact that I say, that's not my lane.
Yeah.
I can't do your craft. You're an artist and you're really good at that. I realize that I need to be humble with that.
And the best leaders step back and say, I'm going to let somebody else be really good at what I'm not really good at.
Right.
The insecure leader says, I'm going to do everything no matter if I'm good at it or not. And that's where I've been for years,
Listen, and that goes back to, the whole control freak of me, right? Like, I want to control the entire customer experience, but I have to realize that I can't because I don't have that particular skill set that is the total customer experience. I can bookend it from beginning to end, but not the middle. I would encourage more people to think about starting a small business, and but think about your idea and test it, and just see what response you get, and then realize you get one life. And so do you want to one day regret never having tried it? Are you okay with that? And if you're okay with that, then it's probably a good decision not to get into it. But if you're going to have a lot of regret, figure out a way to do it and connect with other business owners, because business owners love to talk about their business, clearly. They love to talk about their business.
Love it. Well, I appreciate you taking the time to talk today, and I would echo it, as I've said to many other people, not being recorded, but you have an incredible business, incredible mind, and just your personality and the way you carry yourself is a magnetic, and I think that will carry you long into your business years, and I'm excited to see, although you've accomplished a lot, I'm excited to see what else you accomplish in the future.
Listen, I appreciate it, and it's the same way here. I mean, you've got a great business as well, and I can't wait to see where it grows. And hopefully, maybe in like 4 or 5 years, Jordan, we're going to be sitting maybe in a different setting, talking about what was the next evolution of our businesses.
Yeah,
and
love that.
what have we learned in that period?
Maybe we'll be in like Italy drinking espresso.
I'll
or something.
take that all day long. I'll take that all. But I really appreciate the time and the opportunity.
Thank you. And I know people are going to learn a lot from this, and it's always a pleasure for me to learn as well. I hope you're able to take something away from today's conversation with Justin Hawkins. If you'd like to see more video content, you can subscribe here or on Apple Podcast and Spotify for our audio experience.